In the headlines, death toll in Jigawa tanker explosion climbs to 153. Bandits kidnap doctor, son and mechanic in fresh Katsina attack. Health concerns push Bauchi residents to rely on bottled sachet water for drinking. Away from Nigeria, Mali's military leader promotes himself to top army rank. Good afternoon and welcome to the news update on Trust TV. I am Aisha Salihu. Thank you for joining us. The news in details. Residents of Maia town in Taura local government area of Jigawa state were on Tuesday thrown into mourning after no fewer than 153 people were reported killed following a petrol tanker explosion in the area. Reports say over 50 remain critically injured and are receiving treatment in hospitals across Taura and Hadejia. The report.
Across the length and breadth of Taura local government area, residents are in mourning as they come to terms with the death of their loved ones. At the time of filing this report, a mass burial was ongoing for the victims whose remains were too charred to be identified, with grieving families sitting in silence and ruminating over the loss. Shattered and heartbroken, some residents summoned courage to share their grief with Trust TV.
Today we woke up with disastrous information. A disaster that we did not even experience during the flood. It has occurred yesterday in the night, 11 o'clock. A tanker fell down. When it fell down, the oil there started spilling to the culvert. When it entered the culvert, it cashed into the town. Unknowingly, people started packing oil, thinking that it's an off. They didn't know, little did they know that it's a cause of death. So some of them that engaged in fetching this fuel were caught up with the fire. In the process of taking, there is a flash of light and the place caught fire. Right now that we recorded about the death of 107 people. Almost 50 are in the hospital receiving attention. What we do first is to evacuate those that are alive. They were evacuated to the hospitals. Those that have died, we are preparing them now for a mass burial.
There are growing concerns that the death toll may rise due to severe burns sustained by many of the injured. Meanwhile, Governor Umar Namadi has expressed sorrow and offered heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families and the entire community affected by the unfortunate incident. The governor, according to a statement by his media aide, has mobilized resources and provided essential support to the victims' families to help ameliorate their plight, while assuring the public that steps will be taken to prevent such tragedies in the future. The governor prayed Allah to grant eternal rest to the departed souls and bring solace to their loved ones.
And now, against the backdrop of the tanker fire incident in Jigawa State, Abdullahi Ahmed takes a look at the alarming rise of oil tanker fires in Nigeria, which have led to significant loss of life and property. He explores the root causes of these incidents, including poor infrastructure and lack of safety regulations. Take a look.
In the last 10 years, Nigeria has been plagued by a rising number of fatal fuel tanker explosions. These tragedies have claimed hundreds of lives and destroyed countless properties. Since 2018, more than 800 people have lost their lives in over 200 tanker-related fires. The main culprits? Well, bad road conditions, outdated safety regulations, and rampant pipeline vandalism that has forced fuel companies to transport petroleum products via dangerous, poorly maintained roads. Adding to the crisis are factors like inadequate vehicle maintenance, insufficient driver training, and the absence of a comprehensive emergency response system, leaving vulnerable communities exposed to these recurrent disasters. In October 2019, in Onitsha, Anambra State, one of the most harrowing incidents in recent memory was recorded. A tanker laden with petrol lost control, overturned, and exploded, unleashing a fire that ripped through buildings, shops and homes. More than 30 people died in the blaze and families were left devastated, mourning their lost loved ones and means of livelihood.
Mercy! Save Nigeria, God!
In September of 2020 in Lokoja, Kogi State, this tragic event shook the nation. A petrol tanker suffered brake failure and crashed, leading to an explosion that killed at least 23 people, including school children and a pregnant woman. The blast engulfed vehicles, pedestrians, and businesses within the vicinity, highlighting the deadly consequences of poor vehicle maintenance and inadequate road safety enforcement. Fast forward to December of 2020, along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, a major fuel tanker explosion struck one of Nigeria's busiest highways. Several people were killed, vehicles were destroyed, and infrastructure damage caused widespread traffic chaos. The incident raised serious questions about safety on Nigeria's most critical transport routes, with experts calling for tighter regulations and better road infrastructure. And in July of 2021, in Oshogbodu, Benue State, another tragic incident was reported where a tanker explosion killed at least 12 people and obliterated homes and businesses. The fire spread rapidly through the community, leaving families with nothing but ashes and grief. 3 years ago, in November of 2021, in Alagbado area of Lagos State, in a densely populated neighborhood, a tanker fire erupted, causing panic and destruction. The explosion underscored the risk of transporting highly flammable materials through residential areas, with many calling for a re-evaluation of fuel transportation practices across Nigeria. Now, these tragedies expose deep-rooted issues in Nigeria's fuel transportation system. Poorly maintained roads, overloaded fuel tankers, and weak safety enforcement create the perfect storm for disaster. With no comprehensive safety regulations in place and infrastructure in desperate need of repair, tanker fires continue to devastate communities. Now, what needs to change? Experts emphasize the urgent need for action, stricter safety protocols for tanker maintenance, rigorous driver training programs, and better enforcement of regulations are critical steps that need to be addressed. Additionally, upgrading road infrastructure and ensuring quick, effective emergency response could prevent further tragedies. Without these reforms, Nigeria's communities remain at risk and deadly toll of oil tanker fires will continue.
And to matters of security, a medical practitioner, Dr. Kabir Ibrahim Kankara, his son Imran Kabir, and mechanic have been kidnapped in the early hours of Wednesday on Kankara-Katsina Road. The medical doctor was on his way to Katsina from Kankara when his vehicle developed fault, forcing him to stop around Yargamji village few kilometers after Kurfi town. According to sources, Dr. Kabir Kankara called his son Imrana to mobilize and take a mechanic who will fix his vehicle. However, on reaching there, bandits riding on motorcycles accosted them immediately and whisked them away. Dr. Kabir Ibrahim is the owner of Kankara Clinic, situated in Kankara town. Police spokesman in Katsina, ASP Sadiq Aliyu, is yet to comment on the incident. As the Supreme Court appears to hear a suit from 16 governors challenging the legality of Nigeria's EFCC, citing constitutional gaps, civil society groups are rallying against this coalition. They claim the governor's actions aim to legitimize corruption and undermine public trust. The report.
Coming under Order 41 of the Senate Rulebook on matters of urgent national importance, Senator Hussaini Babangida, representing Jigawa Northwest, announced the unfortunate tanker explosion which happened at Majia Ward in Taura local government, Jigawa Northwest. He called for public enlightenment and sensitization on the dangers of scooping fuel from tankers involved in accidents as one of the measures to prevent future occurrence.
The explosion resulted in the death of about 100 people whose bodies were burnt beyond recognition, leaving about 300 people with varying degrees of burns. Public enlightenment and sensitization on the dangers of indulging in the dangerous act of
Vice President Kashim Shettima has arrived in Sweden for a 2-day bilateral meeting. Visit aimed at boosting trade and bilateral relations between both nations. In a statement late Wednesday, Stanley Mwocha said the Vice President arrived in the European country alongside Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang, Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tugar, Communications Minister and Digital Economy Bosun Tijani, and some heads of government agencies and parastatals. Mwocha said the visit, which was at the behest of President Bola Tinubu, would see the Vice President engage in high-level talks with key government officials. He is also slated to meet with Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden and the Swedish Prime Minister. He said targeted areas of strengthened collaboration between Nigeria and Sweden that will be pursued by the Vice President include ICT, digitalization, education, sustainable transport, agriculture and mining. The Vice President is expected back in the country on Saturday. And now to the red chambers of the National Assembly. The Nigerian Senate is grieving the death of over 100 persons who died after an overturned trailer laden with fuel ignited while residents were scooping the spilled petrol in Dutse, the Jigawa state capital. The Senate equally called on the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and the National Emergency Management Agency to immediately respond to the emergency situation. Trust National Assembly correspondent Sagar Ibrahim brings details of this and more from Wednesday's plenary.
Coming under Order 41 of the Senate Rulebook on matters of urgent national importance, Senator Hussaini Babangida, representing Jigawa Northwest, announced the unfortunate tanker explosion which happened at Maia Ward in Taura local government, Jigawa Northwest. He called for public enlightenment and sensitization on the dangers of scooping fuel from tankers involved in accidents as one of the measures to prevent future occurrence.
The explosion resulted in the death of about 100 people whose bodies were burnt beyond recognition, leaving about 300 people with varying degrees of burns. Public enlightenment and sensitization on the dangers of indulging in the dangerous act of scooping fuel from tankers whenever there is a tanker accident should be encouraged as part of measures to forestall reoccurrence of these unfortunate incidents.
Our people mostly are in rural areas and they are not aware of the danger of approaching tankers that are falling and the danger of scooping fuel from these tankers. And that is why, in partial ignorance, they engage in this activity that leads to loss of lives. Finally, Mr. President, I want to say that the Senate should take this matter of providing succor for those who have been affected with all seriousness.
In his own remark, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who commiserated with the senator, the state government, and those affected, cautioned Nigerians on the dangers of fuel siphoning, advising them to desist from such behaviors.
This has happened in Lagos, it has happened in Ikeja, it has happened in my community in Akwa Ibom State before, and a lot of the bonds were first-class bonds. I don't think we need too much debate, but the prayers will have to be more loaded. Is it the view of the Senate that we proceed to the prayers?
Also, the Senate President has reacted to a publication's claim that there is a ploy to instigate his removal after the confirmation of 18 persons as federal commissioners in the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. The Senate President took time to react to the publication making the rounds about an alleged ploy to remove him as leader of the Senate. He described it as a cheap attempt by social media bloggers to rake in views on YouTube and earn from their channels, and also fake news originating from individuals hired to shake up the polity. He then directed the Senate Committee on Special Duties to investigate the matter and report back in 24 hours.
It's part of what we pass through on a daily basis. It's either they use AI to inject something to turn it around in order to drive traffic. I understand that they are being paid by YouTube if they have a lot of traffic. So whoever brought out this fake news must be getting a lot of payment because of the traffic going on. But I hope the public is aware that this is total fake news and that the chamber is very stable and the issue of impeachment does not come in. So, Kaka, please investigate and report back to us as soon as practicable.
As the Senate President pleases, I will do the needful and report back, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
The publication had also alleged that operatives of the Department of State Services, the DSS, had surrounded the National Assembly complex in an attempt to prevent the said impeachment. From the National Assembly, Sagir Ibrahim, Trust TV News, Abuja.
You're watching the news update on Trust TV. Still in the news. Health concerns push Bauchi residents to rely on bottled sachet water for drinking. We'll bring you details of this story and more after the break. Don't go away. It's nice to have you join us again. Let's have a second look at some of our top stories. We told you that death toll in Jigawa tanker explosion climbs to 153. You also heard bandits kidnap doctor, son, and mechanic in fresh Katsina attack. And to other stories. As the 2024 harvest season commences in many parts of the country, many farmers are packaging their produce and transporting them back to silos at homes for later sales and family consumption. However, many farmers in Gombe State have continued selling their produce direct from the farms in order to settle farms' input debts and domestic issues. This action, according to stakeholders, will ignite a wave of food inflation across the country, hence the need for farmers to be cautious of their actions. The report.
So for the individuals, they should make up their mind to say, let's go to farm. If you don't do large scale, you do small scale. If you don't do small scale, you could do one just behind your backyard. Then when government has inputs based on the needs available, seeds, fertilizers, extension services, that will now help the individual farmer to galvanize and produce food for all of us. And we encourage everyone, yourself, myself, everyone should truly go back to farm.
It simply means that you, in your small environment, can grow 2 or 3 tomatoes that you don't have to go to the market to buy. Growing up as young children, our parents did it. I experienced it. We have yam at the back. I've had cocoyam. We had plantains. We didn't have to go to market to buy everything, contrary to what we're seeing. So we're trying to encourage us to go back to those times and do homestead farming.
Support farmers, the real farmers. They are there. If you support them, support their supporters, good. They make it reach us. The sermon everybody is preaching now is that if you cannot go 1 kilometer away from your house to go and farm, you can still farm your house. That distance between the foot of the wall of your house and your perimeter fence is a farm. So you can go into livestock, you can do bag, you can farm in a bag, vegetables and all of that. So by the time you farm, you have vegetable, I have vegetable, it will crash down the prices of food and Nigeria will be better.
Some residents of Bauchi State say they will spend more on sachet and bottled water to preserve their health rather than resorting to untreated tap water. Reacting to the recent increase in the price of sachet and bottled water amidst the high cost of essential commodities, the residents say no matter the cost, sachet and bottled water remains preferable for drinking following their treatments. Trustee Adamu Imam completes the report.
According to some of the residents in Bauchi metropolis saying the sachet and bottled water for drinking is more expensive as a bag of sachet water, which was sold for 130 in the state, is now sold for between 250 and 300 naira, depending on the location and other market forces. They said despite the increase, they prefer to spend more as public water has over time proven not to be hygienic enough for drinking.
Because this one is better than that one. That's why we used to buy this one. It's better than this one. It's better than that water. Because sometimes if you carry cup to go and get fresh water, you will see that there is some balls inside the water from the tap. And this one you will not see anything inside. It's very clean, very fantastic.
Honestly, they increased the price of sachet and bottled water due to the high cost of things in the country, especially the price of petrol. Now, bottled water is sold for 250 naira, while a sachet of water is now 30 naira in some places. A water sanitation and hygiene expert, Magaj Bardi, explained that drinking water directly from the tap is unhealthy and urged residents to consider the implications on their health when deciding on the kind of water they drink on a daily basis.
This has a negative impact on health, education, and well-being, and has even caused a drastic increment in the rate of advancement of the spread of infectious diseases like cholera, issues around typhoid, which we have seen on a practical note in the health facilities and the household. So I am talking from the angle of a specialist in water sanitation and hygiene to call on the government to be able to control the prices of water consumables in the market for the common man to be able to afford and have access to safe drinking water.
Those who insist on buying sachet water despite its rising cost say they are considering the health hazards of using untreated water like the one that comes directly from the tap. Hence, they resolve to stay with sachet water. Meanwhile, the Association of Table Water Producers in the state is attributing the surge in the price of sachet or bottled water to the rising cost of production. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
In business, the Ministry of Finance has partnered key stakeholders to introduce the Credit Access for Light and Mobility Fund, a 10 billion naira credit initiative to support Nigerians in converting their vehicles to compressed natural gas. The new initiative is in collaboration with the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation and Presidential Initiative on Compressed Natural Gas. MD and CEO of Murphy Armstrong Takang highlighted that the initiative is designed to address the challenges posed by recent oil subsidy reforms, which have significantly impacted transportation costs. The introduction of the CALM Fund provides a pathway for motorists to secure loans for these conversions, alleviating the financial burden of upfront costs. And to developments away from Nigeria, the head of the military junta that seized power in Mali in 2020 has promoted himself Wednesday to the rank of Army General with special title Colonel Assimi Goita of the Land Army, the highest military distinction held only by two former heads of state in the country's history. The move by Goita is a sign that he has no intention of ceding power to civilians in the landlocked West African country. The announcement was made by the Council of Ministers, which published a statement on the website of the Malian government's General Secretariat. 5 other highly influential colonels of the Malian military junta were also promoted exceptionally to the rank of 4-star generals. No date has been set for Mali's presidential election. In sports, Nigeria coasted to a 4-1 victory over flummoxed New Zealand as the 2024 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup finals rolled into action in Santiago de los Caballeros on Wednesday. Shakirat Mashoud scored one of the competition's fastest goals since it was launched 16 years ago, when she rounded the defense of the girls from down under to score the first goal after only 80 seconds at the CFC Stadium. Faridat Abdulwahab rocked the crossbar 7 minutes later from 23 yards, and in the 13th minute, Nigeria went 2 goals up when defender Taiwo Adegoke's shot from well outside the box was misjudged by the goalkeeper, who palmed the ball over the line before scrambling in vain to push it out. A check with the video assistant referee confirmed that the ball had indeed crossed the line. In the second half, the Flamingos continued their raid on the opposition goal, and 8 minutes into the restart, it was 4-0 after Folabi's looping header from Adegoke's cross from the right sailed over the goalkeeper into the net. Following their match against New Zealand, the Flamingos will face Ecuador on Saturday before taking on host nation Dominican Republic on Tuesday at the Felix Sanchez Stadium in Santo Domingo. Also in sports, struggling Nasarawa United produced a scintillating performance, defeating hapless Abia Warriors 3-0 in front of a raucous home crowd at the Lafayette City Stadium during the 2024-2025 Nigeria Premier Football League Match Day 7 midweek encounter on Wednesday evening. Governor Abdullahi Sule made a morale-boosting presence at the stadium to cheer the Solid Miners to victory. The governor's presence at the game had a profound effect on the players as they turned around their slow start to the game to dominating the match in the reverse half. Anas Yusuf opened the scoring in the 56th minute before adding 2 more goals in the 58th and 70th minutes, securing a well-deserved hat-trick and first home win for the Lafayette-based Nasarawa United. The attacker has now netted 8 times for the Solid Miners this season. And on that note, we've come to the end of the news update on Trust TV. Do not forget, you can always follow us across all of our social media platforms, and also join our YouTube live stream for more news, programs and documentaries. I'm Aisha Salihu. Thank you for watching.